Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
The day that changed everything started like any other. Jake was a normal 12-year-old boy who loved playing video games, riding his bike, and hanging out with his friends. He lived in a small town in Ohio with his mom, dad, and younger sister, Lily. His dad, Mark, was a firefighter who had been diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer a year ago. He had been undergoing chemotherapy and radiation, but the doctors said there was not much hope left. He was bedridden and in constant pain, and Jake hated seeing him suffer. Jake had just come back from school and was standing in his parents' room, talking to his very sick dad. He tried to cheer him up by telling him about his day, his homework, and his plans for the weekend. He wanted to make him smile, even for a moment. He loved his dad more than anything, and he wished he could do something to make him better. As he was talking, he got the feeling something was behind him. He looked towards the doorway to the living room and saw something that made his blood run cold. Something about 4 feet 6 inches and fully black was peeking around the corner, with its hands on the doorframe. It had no eyes, no mouth, no features at all. Just a dark, shadowy figure that seemed to radiate evil. Jake felt a surge of fear and anger, and he ran towards it, yelling, "Get away from my dad." The figure slipped back around the door, and Jake followed it. When he got outside the doorway, there was nothing. The living room was empty, except for the couch, the TV, and the family photos on the wall. Jake looked around, bewildered and scared. Where did it go? What was it? Why was it here? He ran back to his dad's room and told him what he saw. His dad was completely confused and worried. He asked Jake if he was sure, if he was feeling okay, if he had taken any medication. Jake insisted that he was not imagining things, that he saw something real and terrifying. His dad tried to calm him down, saying that maybe it was a trick of the light, or a bad dream, or a hallucination caused by stress. He told him to relax and take a deep breath. He said he loved him, and that everything was going to be all right. Jake wanted to believe him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. He hugged his dad and told him he loved him too. He said he was going to check on his mom and sister, who were in the kitchen making dinner. He left the room, but not before taking one last look at the doorway. He hoped he would never see that thing again. But he was wrong. He would see it many more times, and so would his mom and sister. And each time, it would get closer and closer to his dad. And each time, his dad would get weaker and weaker. Jake soon realized that the figure was not just a random apparition. It was a harbinger of death, and it had come for his dad. He tried to tell his mom, Lily, and anyone else who would listen, but no one believed him. They all thought he was making it up, or that he was in denial, or that he needed professional help. They said he was too young to understand what was happening, and that he should focus on the positive things in life. They said he should spend as much time as he could with his dad, and cherish the memories they had together. Jake wanted to do that, but he also wanted to protect his dad. He wanted to fight the figure, to drive it away, to save his dad's life. He did some research online, and found out that there were other people who had seen similar things. They called them shadow people, and they said they were evil entities that fed on human energy, especially the energy of the dying. They said there were ways to ward them off, such as using salt, sage, or holy water. They said there were people who could help, such as priests, psychics, or exorcists. Jake decided to try some of these methods, but none of them worked. The figure kept coming back, and it seemed to grow stronger and bolder. It started to appear not only in the doorway, but also in the windows, in the mirrors, and even in the TV screen. It started to make noises, such as whispers, growls, and laughter. It started to touch Jake and his family, causing them to feel cold, numb, and sick. It started to torment them, playing with their minds, their emotions, and their fears. Jake felt helpless and hopeless. He felt like he was losing his dad, and his family, and his sanity. He felt like he was alone, and that no one could help him. He felt like he was doomed, and that the figure would eventually get him too. But he was not alone. There was someone who could help him. Someone who had seen the figure before. Someone who knew what it was and how to stop it. Someone who had a personal connection to Jake and his dad. Someone who had a secret that would change everything. That someone was Jake's grandfather, Frank. He was Mark's father, and he had been estranged from his son for over a decade. He had been a firefighter too, but he had retired after a tragic incident that had cost him his wife, his partner, and his reputation. He had been accused of negligence, corruption, and murder, and he had been shunned by his colleagues, his friends, and his family. He had moved to a remote cabin in the woods, where he lived in isolation and bitterness. He had not seen or spoken to his son since the day of the funeral of his mother, when they had a heated argument that ended with Mark saying he never wanted to see him again. He had not met his grandchildren, Jake and Lily, and he had no interest in doing so. He had given up on life, and he was waiting for death to take him. But death had other plans. Death had sent him a visitor, a familiar and unwelcome one. The same visitor that Jake had seen. The same visitor that had haunted Frank for years. The same visitor that had killed his wife, his partner, and many others. The same visitor that had a name, a history, and a grudge. The visitor was not a shadow person. It was a ghost. A ghost of a man who had died in a fire that Frank had failed to put out. A man who had blamed Frank for his death and had sworn to take revenge on him and his family. A man who had followed Frank ever since and had caused him misery and suffering. A man who had found a new target in Mark and had decided to finish what he had started. The man's name was Roy, and he was Frank's brother.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.